Folks, if we're ready, we could call the meeting to order. You could ask Muffy and Catherine if they were.
Wait a minute, you're late.
Late, that's right. I'm late. Okay. Anyway, well, thank you all very much for being here. We have this meeting, and then the next scheduled and the only other scheduled town meeting, I believe, is 2 weeks from tonight, officially scheduled.
19th.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, obviously, there may be more as far as the warrant articles, depending on how things come forward, but at least those 2 dates.
I have the January 11th one.
Yeah.
Well,
That's to review warrant articles and the overall total.
Okay. But I'm just saying there may be some other stuff in between, depending on what comes up or what we have.
The January 11th is tentatively ours though for reviewing the warrant articles, is that what you're saying?
That's my understanding, yes.
And school meetings scheduled?
We have not had the third one scheduled yet. I was going to get in touch with them to see what kind of progress they've made, to just get some sense of.
We've had two?
We've had two, yeah.
You didn't miss anything.
I didn't miss it.
No.
When was it?
Which they pretty much, I mean, on the school side, they asked the staff to target a level funded budget on the expense side. The unknown is the income side, and we know there's some challenges there. And always the other thing that always hangs out there with the school is because they have had really significant surpluses over the years. If we get to a year, even if we have a level funded budget and we don't have a surplus, that surplus could easily, based on historical figures, could be anywhere from 60 cents to $1 on the tax rate that that wouldn't be offset as it has been previously.
So the two meetings at the school, one was on the 9th, I believe, when I was away.
Yeah.
I don't know when the other one was.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was another one. We didn't get any real input yet.
Well, on the expense side, and we
But not on the
no.
income, okay.
No. And so on the budget side, the expense side, I mean, they basically right now are proposing a level funded budget
Okay.
with the one that was approved last spring. But like I said, the caveat there always is that especially where their budget is so large and where they've had significant surpluses, if they run into a year without a surplus, that could make a big difference. Okay. All right. Anyway, well, thank you all very much for coming. We're going to start off with that. And if you'd like to come up here, Jessica, and.
I feel so illustrious up here beside Steve.
Yes.
All right, we'll send some around that way.
Okay.
Send some around that way. Thank you. So for those who may not have met me, my name is Jessica Bunker, and I am the Executive Director at the Littleton Area Chamber of Commerce. And we started a number of years ago coming in front of the Budget Committee and also in front of the Select Board, just to increase communication about some of our projects and specifically ones that are community focused. So I'm here tonight to talk to you about two different programs. One is our downtown beautification projects, and one is our community events. So the Chamber's mission is to create a region unified by positive and sustainable growth through community and economic development. And it's because our downtown beautification projects and our community events meet both of those criteria that we're presenting on them today. So last year, you may remember that we reported on the findings from the UNH Cooperative Extension's First Impressions program, and that was a program that the town participated in, which is designed to help the community learn about their downtown's existing assets and opportunities for improvement. And we received feedback, third-party feedback from them, that our downtown beautification projects definitely helped to brand our town. Similarly, this year, Littleton's Main Street was just selected as one of the 2017 Main Streets across America. So our Main Street was chosen to represent the entire state of New Hampshire on this annual list compiled by the National Life Group. And Main Streets Across America is a celebration of streets in each of the 50 states. So it's a national program, as well as the District of Columbia, that reflect strong Main Street values play a central role in the communities in which they are located and have great stories to tell. Hi, Diane. So you can see on the back of your handout, I've included the criteria for the Main Streets Across America program. And one of the key elements for this award are celebrations of history and traditions and reflections of civic pride. So in terms of destination marketing, our downtown beautification projects and community events are literally, quite literally, putting Littleton and the Littleton area on the map. These projects and the community events are also very well received and sought after by our community members. In a strategic planning survey that we collected as part of our meetings this fall, over half of our respondents classified the beautification projects and community events as either very important or important. And then, of course, both of these projects are also very strong economic development tools. So according to foot traffic estimates, we attracted over 2,000 visitors, for example, to the gathering of the jack-o'-lanterns this fall in October. And we had well over 1,000 visitors and our most parade participants in the holiday parade this year. And I'm sure you guys are familiar with some of these statistics, but for every $1 visitors spend, or that we spend, locally, it's estimated that 68% of that stays in the community. So if someone spent $100, $68 would stay and in the community, which of course goes towards local taxes, local wages, services, supplies. So the chamber is going to be presenting the town with 2 warrant articles this year. The first article is going to request to raise and appropriate the sum of $11,150 to support the downtown beautification efforts. And the second will request to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,655 to support the community event efforts. The sum of this is, as you're doing math in your head, $13,805, which is less than we requested last year. And we're trying to be very purposeful in our efforts, you know, just like any good department, in kind of doing rotations of, you know, materials and being judicious so that these expenses don't come in big chunks all at once. So we've taken some of the things off and on.
Jessica, what was the second warrant article for?
Second was for the community events. Community events, and those are specifically the 2, Gathering of the Jack-o'-lanterns and the Holiday Parade, which are very Littleton focused.
Good thing the water came down for the jack-o'-lanterns.
Yes, oh my goodness. It almost swept me away.
That was I talked to Photo Factory, and they gave out 750 or 60 treats that day.
Really? I think you underestimated. I think there were more than 2,000 people.
No, she said out of towners, so I think.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah, hard to know.
yeah, hard to know,
It
but
was-
we'd say
it
at
was
least
great.
2.
It was great.
Yeah, there were a lot of people.
Your consolidation as far as your facilities or whatever, is that all working?
That is working well. It's wonderful to have a location on Main Street right in the thick of things, and be available and also streamline our services by being all in one location, so that has helped.
And being located where you are now, you know, I'm playing devil's advocate here to some degree, but I mean, you know, the booth obviously was, we've all seen the booth and been aware of the booth for how many years, George?
1924.
Many.
Many years, yeah, before George and I can even
It
remember.
was built in 24, right?
What?
I think that's right.
But in any case, but I was worried that even though you were basically just across the street, that it wasn't gonna jump out, if you would, the way the older facility did. But that has not proven to be an issue.
I think we're still getting a good amount of visitation and foot traffic, both because of our media marketing, our online marketing, our print publications, and then we still, you know, although we're not using the information booth as we were before, we still literally have people, not in this weather necessarily, but in more temperate weather, literally have folks out on the street as well.
It
So
was
all that
cold,
pointing to that.
hot in that place. And besides, I've saved many wrecks by not having it. Because I'd sit in the window and yell at people, and somebody'd stop and they'd run into them.
Thank you, George.
That seems.
Paid everybody on a bloody
Nobody ever did, but it's the truth.
Is membership up or down, or?
Membership is steady, and I'd say a little bit on the uptick. We are around 300 members and growing, which is good.
Jessica, do you have several out-of-town members? I mean, people from Franconia and Bethlehem
Yes.
and all that?
Oh, yes.
You-
Yes, yep. Franconia, Bethlehem, Twin Mountain, Whitefield, all those areas.
Can you tell on your website how many hits you have?
We can.
And
Can. Ooh, off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of last year's number, and I want to say over 65,000, but I'd have to ask and look at it
Because
specifically.
that website is very important,
Mhm.
and just the viewing and of the information on that website. I think it's probably a tool that even the locals don't use as much as they should, because there's a lot of great information on that,
Mhm.
about different events at the different businesses, and other events. But I was just wondering,
Yeah.
if that's increasing too. That's an
Absolutely.
important tool.
Yeah, it is an important tool, and we've done a lot of work over the past year to improve our systems and our offerings to our members. So we now have a member database that allows each chamber member to log into their account and to enter exactly the kind of information you're talking about, whether it be sales information or event information, so that we really can be the clearinghouse and hub for all of that information for visitors. That's also something that's available on our app. So we have a chamber app that allows visitors to create an itinerary in advance of their visit or during their visit by looking at all of those different offerings and then selecting and saving them within the app rather than having to remember them or create a list themselves. So both of those are available.
Okay.
And is there some type of linking or whatever with the library and with the historical society?
On multiple projects. So on all of these events, we're working to expand not only the offerings in town, but also a regional focus. So we're working with multiple organizations for every single event, and that's what we're using to make the event offerings more robust. And so in each instance, we have a portion of the event that the library or the historical society or another similar organization is offering as part of the schedule of the day's events.
If somebody, and I take it up, the library obviously has their own site, and do they all cross-pollinate?
They all cross-pollinate and they all link. So if you're a member of the chamber, on your chamber listing is a link to your website and of course a link to your events as well. But the more that they all point to each other, the better the SEO.
Because, as Karen obviously has been talking to us about, we seem to have an uptick in interest in the Opera House for various functions or whatever, and I know that genealogy is a big item today. I mean all.
Ancestry.com and everything.
Well, I mean, some of the stories are just unbelievable. Some of the connections what people make, but being able to come back to a town and find somebody locally who
Yes.
is really aware of that,
And can literally recite it on.
well, that's right. Or
on
it
cue,
can really point you in the right
oftentimes.
direction, assist you, or whatever else with the newspaper articles,
Yes.
obituaries, whatever the case may be. I mean, it's a huge economic engine. So, and that's something we've talked over the years with the library about that they should be communicating more with the historical society. I think that is happening now with some new leadership. But that's Berlin does a great job with their the Moffat House up there, and even you go to Boston already, in the New England Genealogical Society, whatever. It's amazing the stuff that they've got going on. There's a lot of interest in that. So, which goes to show you, if you live long enough, you do become interested in history. So, especially after you've made some of it.
That's true.
Yeah. But anyway, so we certainly thank you for all that.
Our pleasure.
Does the library doesn't have any line items in the budget, correct?
Yes, they will.
The whole
Yes.
section.
A whole
In the
section.
budget or the warrant article only?
Budget.
How much we asking for in the budget?
No, you're saying library?
What? No, I'm sorry.
The chamber.
Chamber of Commerce.
No, we
Chamber of
don't.
Commerce doesn't have any.
No.
We do not.
Okay.
Yeah. They've traditionally had 1 or 2 warrant articles on a consistent basis, but
Okay.
yes.
And last year totally was about 15,000, wasn't it?
Last year, the total we asked for was 15,000.
And that passed.
That passed last year, yes. This year is lower.
Well, those efforts benefit the whole community.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, it isn't just for the businesses, it benefits the whole community.
I still haven't figured that out how.
Well,
It benefits all of the people who own businesses by bringing all these people in to spend money there, but I don't see how it affects the individual property taxes.
It affects the value of your house, your way of living, and everything else.
I haven't seen any of that.
Well,
And
those
then
two
I don't
events-
see how it affects the
Those two
value of
events.
the values of the home.
The cause of the town and what it is.
yeah.
Visit Franklin.
And it also
St.
brings
John's
a
Street.
merriment to the community, which I think every citizen deserves. A lot of people do appreciate that, just for that itself.
And that
But I
helps the
do,
property value.
yeah, it does, I do believe so, because it makes, it brings people in and the businesses are spending. Businesses also then turn around and spend for the community in many ways. There's so many donations that they give that we don't know about. So this is seed money really for a lot of the good things that our businesses do.
Little League,
Yes.
youth soccer, all the
Also,
stuff.
Ralph, if you have friends or family come in to visit, you're very proud of the little town.
I'm very proud of the town anyway,
Yeah.
but I still don't see how all of this money people are asking for is going to help our tax
Well,
rate.
that's absolutely.
Because the tax rate's got to reduce somehow. We've got, if we're gonna put $13,000, then we gotta take it out somewhere else.
We reduced it by $1,500.
Yeah, but if we're gonna put another 13,000 in for 2018, that $13,000 gotta come out of somewhere else if we're gonna flat budget.
She's saying that last
So-
year, the request was 15,000, this year it's 13,000. So
So it's
there's
down
a
less.
decrease.
There is a decrease, but it's still, it's a nice to do thing. It's not necessary for the town policies or the town taxpayers to have a chamber of
And you know
commerce.
what? I think.
It's nice to do.
Okay, it is very nice.
It is, it's not necessary.
But it is a separate warrant article. It is a petition
Right,
warrant article.
Right,
It is
therefore the
not-
town people get to choose on
Yes,
it.
there we
Right.
go.
And I would just say that you might want to, and we can probably get you some information from the Bureau of Labor, Management Information, I think is what it's called, at the Department of Employment Security. They could actually give you a breakdown of what kind of economic impact the chamber has on the economy. Because if you think about it, they're supporting a lot of businesses that do create jobs, local jobs. And all of those people pay taxes and buy, support other businesses, buy groceries, insurance, all those things. It's kind of like all ships rise with a rising tide. The more, it's one component of a strong economic engine. Yeah, so.
That if this economy is growing so great, why isn't our tax rate reducing instead of climbing every year? That's what I don't understand.
Well, that
If
is,
everything's so great, why are we still going up? And why is everybody still asking for so much money?
that is a question that we'll discuss at the very end when we bring all of the aspects together, but for Jessica right now.
Okay.
it's- yeah,
You're not gonna solve those
You're
today.
not gonna say.
Maybe not today, but I will help work on it.
That's right, and we do appreciate that, and obviously it's very nice to see the enthusiasm and whatever else.
Right, Kim?
Good
That's
stuff.
right.
She is dynamite.
Thank you very
Talk to
much.
you
Yes.
Thanks, Jessica.
Thanks, Jessica. For the support team that you.
Kim, are you gonna whistle on the way out, or no?
Skip as
Your famous whistle.
Steve.
I remember that story.
I won't pierce anybody's
No,
ears.
no, taught all those hockey players how to whistle.
Thanks, guys.
I have many hidden talents.
That's it. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Dan, was anybody else coming tonight? Was
I
that?
don't think so. We have Mary Mans, but I wasn't aware that you were coming, but.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, that's fine.
The schedule has the fire department down there.
several weeks.
Oh, well, good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
The schedule has the fire department down for tonight. Where's the fire
Yes,
department?
fire department, but there are others that we've threaded into our regular meetings like we did last year. Those that have petition warrant articles, we also hear their information along with the town, so I don't know when you, Steve, you're in charge.
Do we,
Yes, I thought I had sent you an email
You
saying
may
that
have, but I haven't
I
checked
can
it
come
today.
some other time.
no,
if
no,
it's
no,
more
no,
convenient
no,
for you.
you're here, you let
Yes,
them up
you're
here.
here,
or-
Mary. That's
Let's do it
fine.
here.
sorry about that.
No, I just didn't, I was on the road today, I just.
Okay, I'm Mary Menzies, and I'm the treasurer of the Littleton Community Center. As
The building we're in.
the lovely building that you're in, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, as a volunteer board member, I don't have lots and lots and lots of time to prepare a snazzy presentation for you, but I understood that some questions had arisen just sort of in general about the community center and you know, how it's supported and what it does and how we do it and our governing structure and things like that. So I will try to answer any questions that you can have and I'll, you know, give you a little information. First, I'd like to say I understand what a tough job it is being on the budget committee. That's always been one of my jobs at work is budgeting, and I manage a small business, and I know that there's a lot of competing interests, and you know, we certainly appreciate the support that we have received from the town and hope that we can continue to receive it. We're not looking for any special warrant articles this year, but we are hoping that the town will continue our annual operating budget appropriation of $35,000, which funds approximately half of our budget. We get about 26% of our operating budget paid for by property income, that's user fees and rents for the building, 53% approximately from the town currently, and 21% from donations and fundraising. Now, I'm talking just about the operating budget, the staff, the lights, the insurance, the heat, all of those things. Separately, we've done a lot in the last couple of years, working on making the building nicer. We put on a new roof, we put in new electricity, new electrical work. This summer we put in a new boiler, which doesn't sound like a big project, but by the time you know, the boiler itself was less than $25,000, but by the time you take out the asbestos and take the old boiler out and then make a new pad for it and redo the building with the new sheetrock according to the fire codes and then re-wrap the pipes and this, that, and the other thing, it all came out to in the low 50s total project. So unfortunately, over the years, we've not had what I would call a maintenance reserve in the budget. We've just been squeaking along with, you know, just pay, just keep going. And about 3 or 4 years ago, we were fortunate enough to get a nice bequest from Francis and Mary Healds, and we are taking the income from that. It is, of course, restricted to income-only use. And we've been doing a lot of capital projects with that and catching up with years of deferred maintenance. But none of that can go towards operations. That's just for, you know, building work. In general, you know, you probably wonder who owns the community center? And you know, I must admit, some of this is very interesting. I didn't know a lot of it myself till I started reading some of the history. It's not owned by the town. It's not owned by the board. It was a gift to the people of Littleton. And it is managed and operated by a volunteer board of directors. You may also wonder what would happen to the building and any assets and everything if the community center were to go out of business. And according to our bylaws, which is pretty standard for a not-for-profit, we're a 501c3 charitable organization. You know, you liquidate whatever you've got, and they have whatever's left goes to as similar another charitable organization that's as similar in focus as you can find as to what it is you're doing. So if you're in animal rescue, you'd find another animal rescue group and give your money to them. I guess I'm kind of out of just what I think you might want to hear, so I'm sure you have lots of questions.
Okay, I'm sure there's a deed.
Yes.
Not that it's, but
Sure, Mary.
the name of Ron?
Ron's our historian.
Just a matter of
He's here to
curiosity,
back
I mean.
me up with details.
Yeah, there's a name, I forget exactly what it is, but the Littleton Community Center Association or something like that.
You're right.
Yeah.
Registered with the Secretary of State.
Oh, yeah.
Right, yeah, that was back in 1919.
Yeah, okay.
Mary, is the third floor usable now of this building?
Well, it's usable, but we can't use it, we can't rent it out because we don't have, the fire chief says we don't have two,
Egress.
separate means of egress. I was trying to think of the right word. There's just the one set of stairs. So a large and expensive fire escape would be required to make that rentable. And you know, we've looked at the cost of that versus the likely amount of rent that we would get in, and you know, it doesn't make sense. And it's sad because it's really a nice space up there. Has everyone been through the building ever? Oh, well.
Second floor.
Yeah, okay, well, sometime, not today, because you've got your budget meeting, but sometime ask Wendy, just drop by during the day and ask Wendy to give you a tour. It's very, I mean, it's not, you know, all spiffy all over. I mean, we've got this part painted, but it's a nice building.
Over the last several years, obviously, and usually when you've come to us asking for money, it usually has been tied to some upgrade to the building.
Well, those were our petition warrant articles were tied to upgrades to the building. We have received since the community center was first founded, we've received an annual appropriation from the town for the operations, which started out at $3,000 in 1919, I guess, which was a fair amount of money at the time. I actually did look up on the web to see what, you know, that would be in today's dollars, and interestingly, it's about $38,000.
So we've kept pace.
Yes, you have. You have. Of course, as a percentage of the costs, it's less than it was originally. Pretty much just covered all the operating costs, but back then, you know, labor laws were different. I think the people lived here and, you know, weren't paid anything, and you can't do that now. You have to pay people. You know, so.
You said that the town appropriation is about half of what?
About half of our operating budget.
The operating budget.
Right.
And then the other part for projects comes from the
fundraising, donations, grants. We've gotten some grants in the past couple of years. We've also gotten some very nice support from the town for petition warrant articles the last 3 or 4 years, and that's helped considerably with these big projects. But we're not looking for anything extra this year. We're just looking for, you know, please help us stay in business.
And the fees also, do you generate enough revenue from fees, or?
Well, as I say, the town budget is approximately half of the town appropriation is approximately half of our operating budget. Another 26% comes from property income, rent and user fees, and another approximately 20% comes from donations and fundraising, and that kind of flexes depending on, you know, if it's a big fundraising year, if it's a big donation year, or are we focusing on, you know, the capital projects, you know, whatever. But that's about how that shakes out. So.
And you probably, the committee probably, or the board of trustees, has a capital improvement plan going forward?
We are pretty much done with this building, I think. I mean, you know, there's always lots more that you could do, but we've done the major, you know, life safety things. We've done the electricity. We did the new boiler, which was seriously overdue. You know, but I also, when I said that we didn't have a capital reserve, that's something I'm going to put in our budget and just say, you know, that's something we have to budget for every year, is to put a little money aside so the next time that, you know, you need a new boiler or you need a new roof or you have to repaint, you've got some money there, you know, to kick it
What
off.
about the annex?
Yeah, that's,
Okay, yes, coming next is, yes, that is our next hope to do something there that we hope will be, maybe a historic focus and perhaps a welcome center for the town. Right now, it can't be used because of structural issues, and it's going to be a very expensive project, and we're in the process of planning a major fundraising and grant looking for campaign for that. But first we have to get a lot of historic assessments done of the building before we can go after any grants and things. So we're in a planning phase on that.
How long has it not been open?
Oh gosh, 3-4 years maybe, Ron?
Maybe
More
longer
than
More than that?
Yeah.
You know, as I get old,
Yeah.
you
Time
know,
flies by.
it
Yeah.
does. You know, it's
Yeah.
probably been longer than that.
The only reason why I asked
Yeah.
that question is because time does fly.
Yeah.
And if there isn't some momentum on
Right.
trying to figure it out, then you're 15 years down the road. And that was used by quite a few.
It was.
You know, people and, you know, Boy
It's a
Scouts,
great-
Girl Scouts,
Yeah.
everybody.
And it's a
used
great
that.
space for big
Mhm.
things, like the library book sale every year, dances, parties, things like that. And that's something that we hope to, you know,
I
work
think that's a
on,
great idea.
work on next. Right now, I think it's okay to say that as of yesterday, we got a small LCHIP grant for doing some of the studies and assessments that we need to have for them to consider a bigger grant. You know, you need to have someone come in and do I don't even understand, you know, some kind of historical.
Preservation.
Yeah, I,
Preservation.
you know,
Is that
but,
listed on the Historical Society?
Right. Thank you for asking that. What a good cue. I forgot to say that it's the only building in Littleton that's listed on the New Hampshire Register of Historic Places. Is that correct, Ron?
this building or both?
No, this one.
I don't know, is
It's
it
the
the
whole property.
property? Yeah, the
The whole
property.
And not the Opera House?
And, well,
This is the state register. And there are 4 buildings on the national register in town.
Buffy?
Mary,
Yes.
another question. There's not really a plan for that building. And I know you're looking and you've got the
Yeah.
seed money you can
Right.
do. And some of the things that went there, like aerobics and Weight Watchers and stuff,
Mhm.
probably
Well, Weight Watchers still meets here.
here, but
Yeah.
not in that building.
Right, but but it's not nearly as convenient for them as it was when they
Right,
were
but here's the
there.
question.
Yes.
If in fact you do all this studying and you find
Mhm.
that there's no way to get the money to do that, that building just sits there, or could it be with the historic registration of this, could it be torn down legally with this title that goes
Well,
with this?
right now, we have a historic easement on the property from LCHIP that is off in a few years. And we would have to get their permission to do anything. After that, yes, I suppose it could be torn down, but that would be a tragedy.
Well, how old is that building?
It came with the building.
It was the barn for
It was the, yeah, the carriage house.
Yeah.
1880s.
Mary, I know this has been brought up before, but is this building in competition with the Opera House?
That's the next question I have.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think that we, you know, serve different groups, different size groups, a different focus. I mean, obviously, that's a great place for plays and concerts and big things, and this obviously isn't. You know, but this is a great place for,
There may be weddings, there's no competition.
but we had an extended family had their Thanksgiving dinner here a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, and, you know, it was just
Felt
great.
right at home.
Yeah, and, you know, I guess they have an apartment and they had a whole bunch of family coming, so they rented out the first floor and had their Thanksgiving dinner here. And what a beautiful spot.
It is. Wish I thought.
Besides the 35,000, does the town pay you any rental fees or any other fees to utilize the building?
No, the town meets here, as you know, very frequently, and no, we don't charge the town
Okay, so
anything.
it's just the 35,000 from town.
Right.
Does the town, like, we're here now,
Right.
does the town pay?
Oh, he was just asking
Right.
that, that's okay.
Sorry.
No, the town, I have here, but I'm not going to bore you with it, a list of all of the town groups that have met here over the past like 7 years. And there's a page and a half.
For free?
Oh, yeah,
Okay, good,
Yeah,
thanks. No, we know they are.
yes, always for free.
Good, okay.
And, you know, I guess I could say, you know, yeah, if you prefer the Opera House, that's available too, but people seem to like to meet here. You know, we have the warm, friendly staff, and they set up and they take down, and they always make people feel very welcome. That's part of what makes this a special place, I think. I mean, yeah, they're half of our budget, for sure, and I suppose if, you know, you fired the staff, it would be a very different place, operated in a very different way. And you'd still have to have someone come in and clean and come open it up and be here when events were going on, but,
And they care, I think.
yes.
I think both of them do,
And you don't come in the building without being noticed,
Right.
or exit for that matter.
And warmly greeted, I
And
hope,
warmly greeted,
yes.
yes, warmly greeted, very nice.
So at the present time, you're not planning on asking for any warrant articles
Correct.
this year? Okay.
And, you know, we're certainly sensitive to the overall financial situation of the town, and the town's been very good to us the last few years, and we appreciate that, and, you know, we don't want to be the greedy pigs always, you know, like, me. You know, when we get to the point where we've got a feasible plan for the carriage house, you know, we may be back at that time looking for more special warrant articles, as, you know, for money for grant matching and stuff. Because whenever you get grants, you know, you always have to come up with your own money too, but, you know.
Yeah, we owe $7 million in grants right now. Grant fees, $7.5 million now the town owes.
Anyway,
What's
so,
roughly the square footage of the annex? Do you know?
Of this or the other building?
The annex?
oh, I have
Bigger
no
than I
idea.
thought. I was looking at it today.
Oh.
It's bigger than I thought.
It's got, the footprint has got to be something like 5,000 square feet.
Yeah, roughly. the
25,000.
square
Say again?
footage. No, of the annex?
Oh, the annex?
Yeah.
Oh, I think you meant the,
No,
that's probably 5.
that's what, yeah, probably 5,
Oh,
okay.
25.
Andrew, parking. I mentioned parking because I know you've got a side issue, if you would, going on with parking and housing, which involves this property, right?
Yeah, right now we have an agreement with the community house for the front part of the lot.
Right.
We have meters up, but at some point, we might want to have another discussion to just explore.
Parking is certainly
Additional
a big issue right now for the town. It's an issue for
Particularly
us, it's an issue for everybody.
Yeah, and we've talked, I think it was last year, we're trying to figure out a way to balance the needs of the community house and the functions of the.
Could you speak
We're
up?
trying to find ways to balance the needs of the community house and the parking that they need for their events with trying to open up as much parking as we can to public. So,
Goes School Street down.
There
Yeah.
is another side event to the parking issue that I think Steve and I heard when we visited the library. The library has very little parking to begin with, and their staff has no parking. And somehow,
None.
they have none at all. And for them to either walk over and be metered, and they can't park across the street because that's private parking there. So somehow that discussion
The
needs
same
to
with the
take
church,
place.
Yeah,
the post office, the courthouse, they, you
Yeah.
know, and it's just took 16 or 18, whatever spaces there are up there, it just took them off Main Street too. It was a disgusting decision you guys made on
But anyways,
so thank you. Thank you very
that.
much.
I think it was a big mistake, but that's.
No, George, not Main Street, School Street.
School Street.
Which School Street's part of our parking study, and some of the things that we're looking at are ways to create safe parking, because right now that is not safe, and we could.
There've been plows and school buses going up and down the street for 50 to 75 years.
We also had one cop 50 years ago. I think a lot's changed in 50 years, so we have a lot more volume. I think that what we ultimately will see is, I think if you look at the streets, some of the things the parking study's looking at is there's low-hanging fruit. There's things that can be done for free versus building a parking garage and or doing cantilevers. And one of the things is School Street. If we were to look at these roads that are all accessing the same part of the community, we might be able to take one or two of them, turn them one way, and then add a lot of free parking. But as it sits right now, we have a major safety issue with having parking two-way.
You know, Andrew, someone was telling me just last week, she grew up here, I did not, and she said that all those 4 little streets along there, one was up, one was down, one was up, one was down, and that's how it was when she was growing up. But then, I don't know when or why they changed, I'll give you her name, when or why they changed it, but, you know, that probably would explain why it's so difficult to have parking and two-way traffic on these streets, because they probably weren't designed for that.
Well, I'm just putting my 2 cents in for the staff at the library for it to be entered into the discussion when you do have it, because when they come out late at night, especially in the winter, you know, where do they find a car, where, you know, so it's not really in a good spot.
I meet with the library on at least twice a month, and we have whatever topics are coming up, we discuss. They do have some parking, very limited parking behind the library, but what we're looking at is, I have a lease that, a proposed lease that I've drafted for one of the business owners in town that has a lot that's underutilized, that the staff are kind of, you know, non-officially using. And it'll also involve approaching another local business to see if we can get some kind of an easement or a maintenance easement across their property to allow access, but we're working on it. There's a lot of moving parts, and you know,
I know.
triage really.
I just inserted that in.
So we are working with them and closely. So.
And we probably discuss parking at every other board meeting.
I'm sure you do.
You know, it's just like, you know, there just is no.
It's a hot topic.
Yeah, it is no good solution, and someone came to one of our board meetings and said, well, you know, what you have to realize is that parking is a problem of success.
That's right.
I said,
That's a good way to put it.
That's true.
but, you know,
Still, it's a problem.
it is, but, you know, go some places and plenty of parking, nobody wants to be there. I mean, at least this is a place where people want to be, but that is something we have to address.
Right, and also, it's not as though we have not added some parking over the years, because we certainly have, but,
and there's a lot that can be done, and we really have to take an approach of what can be done for cheap or free, and then what can we do to plan for the next step. Like even in the new River District project, we're everywhere we can, we're either sustaining or creating additional spaces, and that's next year. But that's you know, actual hardscape changes versus in some areas we can do line striking.
So that is probably about it for parking, because that's really not Mary's.
Yeah.
Although I am on the planning board, that's one of the things that I said, yes, planning board needs to plan for.
Yes.
So anyways, any other questions for Mary? So we can get on to fire
Okay, well,
department.
thank you
I thank you very much.
for allowing us to attend your meeting, and we hope that you can support us in the future as you have in the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. All right, children.
I do.
So Karen is the chief, and then,
Yeah, they're here.
yeah, and after him, it's gonna be whatever that's.
Whatever you might want to discuss, I do have the budget for the highway and the sewer to hand out. So you'll have that pretty much at time.
Sounds good.
So you want to hand those?
Chief.
Right away, because she's got to
Hot seat, and warmed up.
This one, these is for everybody.
I had to pay for parking, validated.
Yeah. I went to Concord for a hearing a year or so ago, and got my parking validated. It was called a $25 ticket. Some cities, you know, you have a hard time figuring out what the signs are trying to tell you.
I know.
Can we get Captain Miller up here too?
Yeah.
Sure.
Chad?
Captain Miller.
Captain Miller,
Yes, sir.
you're gonna sit to the left hand of the Noble Grand.
Outstanding.
If Captain has one of these, you can
He does,
pass them
I
down
believe.
through.
But he take it- He has one.
Where's yours?
You got the same.
Where are we starting?
Where are you starting?
We're starting on the fire department, which
Which
is
is
on the
page two, this, yeah, okay.
What?
Yeah, on page two, okay.
Page two.
So we're gonna start on the fire department. Can I go ahead and speak?
Oh, please do, Karen, yes.
What you have that you just were handed out, the first 2 pages is just an update, including the fire department proposed budget in here. Pretty soon you're gonna have the complete information. So if you flip your pages open, you'll find the fire department budget, and you'll look down to the right-hand corner, it says 1 of 5.
Yes, thank you.
So, Ralph on the top, yep, okay. In this budget, of course, we had to include the CBA changes. The CBA changes are included in the default as well as the proposed. And we're gonna talk about mostly the proposed. We've talked in the past some on the default, and there has been some reductions on the default and some adjustments on the default. And we'll go over those as we go down through. The permanent positions, we only have 1 position that's non-union in that section, permanent positions, and we're proposing a 3% increase in that. That's for non-union. Under part-time positions, formerly called call company, we have decided it is part-time positions. They are paid, they're not volunteers. We have included a change in the proposed budget and a change in the default budget. We've reduced some of the part-time firefighter cost, and we want to, and we are putting on station coverage for Sundays for a 1 part-time, and it may not be the same part-time firefighter, but it could be a rotating Sunday between 2 or 3 or even 4 firefighters that are part-time covering the station, manning the station, so there's somebody there. So the minute that a full-time firefighter gets called, because they're on a call list, and we get 1 more firefighter, they can head out. They can be on the road. There's also someone there to hand out fire permits, to make sure if somebody stops by, questions can be answered. So the plan is to put or have 1 part-time firefighter on Sunday for station manning. And then in the proposed budget, we're reducing some of the different training lines and reducing and increasing the person at the station, manning the station, to have 2 people for 9 months of the year, because we'd be starting at April 1st. The cost for that person, wage-wise, for a full year is $23,712 for a part-time person. That does not include the Social Security and Medicare cost. There are no retirement costs. There are no health insurance costs for this person. It would just be the wages and the wage-related benefits.
And the 24 hours is when to when?
7 a.m.
a.m. till Monday morning, 7 a.m.
7 a.m. Sunday to 7
a.m.
Monday
Monday.
morning.
Yes.
And does that give us 7 days a week doing that?
Yes.
'Cause we currently go until 7 a.m. on Sunday.
Right. That's correct.
Karen, you said there are no social security wages in these figures? our section of?
They'll be in the sections below. They're
Oh,
factored
okay.
in
I
below.
understand now. I
But
thought
the
you-
Gross pay for this person is $23,712 per year.
So how many hours?
It's 24 hours a week,
Okay.
52 weeks a year for that annual number. Okay, under part-time firefighter shift coverage, at this point, this will stay the same as what we've been doing. We need to make sure that we have some people aboard to do shift coverage. Under the overtime line, we've had to increase some of those numbers related to the CBA because the wages have increased. We've reduced in the proposed mandatory training and recertification. We've increased slightly the mandatory training and recertification for, I believe it's LALS. It's a
ALS.
ALS. So I put in LA. I got to take one of those L's out of there.
Littleton, ALS.
ALS. I like it.
We have some increase in the shift coverage in the proposed budget.
Is the shift coverage paid at that same $19?
The shift coverage would be paid at overtime for full-time firefighters.
Oh, no, excuse me, part-time firefighter shift coverage.
Part-time firefighter shift coverage is $17.53 per hour. It's now $19 per hour.
Which is the same rate as we're proposing for the Sunday coverage.
Right.
Can I ask a question on that? So that part-time is going up 3%, is that what that's supposed to mean, the note? It doesn't look like 3%.
The part-time firefighter shift coverage,
Yeah.
which is line 3, we've included a 3% increase.
That's only
And-
part of the increase.
That's only part of the
Okay,
increase.
gotcha, because the math wasn't working.
Yeah.
Then, if you continue down on mileage reimbursement, we have included an increase in the miscellaneous mileage for the firefighters. As if we send more people to training, we'll have a little more cost in that. The health insurance has dropped. Again, this is that savings that we're seeing in the health insurance, plus the CBA changes, because in the CBA changes, there is a increase in the share that the employees are paying. Life insurance, disability insurance, those are all part of the factors with the wages, as is Social Security, Medicare, retirement. Under training expense, we have some reductions. And if you go through the individual lines, you will see some that have dropped dramatically and some that have increased, some from last year. And it depends on the training that's needed for the different officers that are currently on staff. So we have almost a $2,000 reduction there.
What is the note reduced trying to hire with requirement?
We're having higher requirements, higher standards in our hiring process in order to not have so much training involved. And we seem to be getting more pre-qualified individuals.
So for instance, Steve, we hire part-time firefighters who are level 2 certified, ALS certified. We don't need to send them to firefighter 1 school. So basically that's a cost savings for us. We don't have to endure that cost.
And we're able to find plenty of those candidates, or
We
ample?
are ample.
Okay, but we're not restricting ourselves if we weren't able to find one. We still have the ability to hire a good recruit, if you would, and train them as necessary if,
We could,
Yeah.
yeah, but right now, the emphasis is on hiring what we'll call pre-certified or certified individuals.
yeah. But I mean,
And
but if you,
they're out there.
okay, but we're not tying our hands in terms of if we were to get into a situation where we couldn't,
Right.
but you found a person who you knew had the basics that they would become a good firefighter.
Right.
We can still hire that person if,
We could, and we can still send them to school, but getting them, you have to understand that getting these individuals that are pre-certified, and who we're gonna hire part-time, that time frame from the time we gotta send them to school to the time they become certified, then from the time they gather experience before we can actually, give them additional duties. That's an extraordinary, long time for us. Whereas with a part-time candidate, we bring them in, we give them an orientation, we work with them for several weeks to get them acclimated to the department operations. They're familiar with firefighting, they're familiar with equipment, they're familiar with the trucks, the pumps, extrication tools, so on and so forth. They're ALS certified, which means they're not basic EMTs, they're advanced level providers. Some are paramedics, all right? And if we were to try to bring in a raw recruit, send them through school, and then try to get them through ALS school, we're talking approximately $17,000 in training costs to go through the whole thing, with no guarantee that after we train them, they're going to stick around. Whereas we bring in these part-time certified people, or people who already have their certifications, right? One, it's a cost savings for us. Two, we can get that person up and running, all right, and providing services to the community a lot faster. So to me, that's where the win-win is.
And if they've already gone through the training, you know that they're a dedicated firefighter.
Correct. What's nice about this too is in the event that we have a full-time firefighter who retires or decides to leave to go to another service, we would have a pool of certified part-time people ready to go that we can select from to fill that vacancy almost immediately, while having that gap, and that gap causes us to increase our overtime lines. So we'll be able to reduce that dramatically. So,
Sounds like a plan.
thank you.
but the call company, that still provides an entry-level
Yep.
position, anybody who's interested.
As well as we still operate, we still participate and support the level 1 and EMT basic training in the high school. We have 2 interns. See, this whole program, we're hoping to, for instance, a good example was today, 2 of our interns were in the station. They're obtaining their level 1 certification at the high school using other funding sources, all right? So now they come to us, they're level 1 certified. As you can see in the budget, there is money in the budget for level 2 certification. So we can, the candidate or the candidates we feel are eligible, we would then send to level 2 training, and so on and so forth. But what we're trying to do here is get our initial candidates, right, out of the high school, generate that interest, build that program. So if you want to become a firefighter, that's a good place to start. And most of our recruits, with the exception of part-time, most likely are going to become from the high school within, I'll say, that age group, right? And I think we're going to get more retention that way.
How old does a young person have to be a recruit?
Oh, they start in the junior year.
So like 16, 17,
Yeah.
that young?
How about becoming a licensed or a registered fireman, how old do they have to, is it 21 or 18 or 19?
It's 18.
18, okay.
Yeah, so after they get out of high school, there's a short period of time, if they're not 18 already. And that doesn't prevent them from obtaining their EMT basic either. And then when they come out of there, we would like to promote them to get their advanced.
All of it together, though, really helps. It's an opportunity for some of our youth to go on to something else besides college. That is a
Right.
career choice, and it has has all the steps.
Well, it provides an alternative career track for those people who aren't interested immediately in college. They're more interested in they want to become medical providers, firefighters. But at some point in time, I can tell you from experience, those students or those candidates that came to us in our intern programs, who worked with us for a while, realized that in order for them to move up in the career, it's going to take some college education. And they've gone ahead and gone to college to acquire associate's degrees or bachelor's degrees. Some have gotten master's degrees. So it is a stepping stone for them, you know. But it does give them a great opportunity to get ahead of the curve. Yeah.
How many students do you have participating in that, do you know?
So it varies from time to time, depending on the time of year. Right now, we have 2 interns that are assigned to us through the guidance department at the high school. Last year we had 8 people. This year there's two people in the fire science, and I believe there's 6 or 8 people in the EMS program. So it's.
What do you guys do to spur the interest in the students? Do you participate in anything there?
Yes, we do. We participate in career fairs. We promote through as wherever we can. A lot of it we're starting to learn. It's Facebook, Twitter, and of course word of mouth. There's a lot. Well, I'm going to say there's a little bit of marketing that goes with this. I mean, if you looked at our classroom that we have designated to us, it's pretty much just a plain old classroom. They're moving our classroom, but the plan is to really dress it up with a lot of fire equipment, pictures. I mean, really make it look like a firehouse, if you will. And of course these kids get bunker gear. They get gear. They sign off. They ride on the trucks. They go to calls with us. It's not like they sit around the station. They get involved, and they start to learn when they start this program. And then, of course, word gets out, and other kids may have an interest.
We had a presentation at the Chamber this week or last week from Granite State, and they're interested in helping anybody and everybody, including the fire department, I'm sure, as far as, and it's almost all online and very, very reasonable, but they're very.
Before we turn the floor back to Karen, what do we have for numbers in our former call company, now part-time positions?
What do we have? Is it 11?
Counting in my head, it's somewhere in that range because some
picked up. Well,
some of them are. I guess it's a little bit terminology because some members they're call company, but they're part-time as well. So yeah, I'd say we have 11 or 12.
Yeah, we just picked up 2 more. So probably not counting them.
Right, the ones from.
Correct. Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah.
So are we aspiring to 30? Is that a?
I don't know.
No, I mean, that number's been. I mean, at one time, we had on a regular basis 30 people. Is that still a number we'd shoot for? A number that we'd like to have, or is a smaller number or a workable number?
Well, it's sure is a nice number. Absolutely. It's kind of tough in this day and age to acquire 30. We would be so far ahead of the curve nationally. It would be it'd be pretty incredible. I can go on a national circuit and tell people why we're so successful. But yeah, I mean, the more the merrier. But basically, if we can, like I said, the goal is to try to instill some interest at a younger stage. Try to capture those students who aren't quite sure what they want to do in life. They find out they want to be, work in the fire department, work in the EMS side of things. We're giving them that career track, and I think that we're going to find out that in doing so, we're going to retain them longer. The goal for them is, and we're proud of it because we do prepare them through their career with Littleton, is to get them ready for a full-time position. So are they gonna leave us at some time? Yes, they are. And that's just the nature of who we are. But you can say with pride that they came through our program, right? And they were taught well. So, and that's, you know, that's where I hang my hat, we hang our hat. Some will stay, and some will look for a career, another job.
What is so important to me is that the young people have exposure to different career paths, and this is certainly a great exposure to a very good career.
Right.
So that's where I'm really pleased. And yes, we're not going to retain them all, I mean, because they're going to move and do different things. But thank you for working with that. That's great.
You're welcome.
And you could have 18 people on the list, but out of those 18 people, you may end up with 10 showing up on a regular basis. The other ones might put in 2 hours a year. And you really need to have someone more dependable to be in the group that shows up.
Back to you, Karen.
Okay, the fitness.
That's a good summary statement here.
Physical fitness, that stays the same from last year. Under uniforms, we have a little bit of a reduction there. We've looked at the different numbers, and the chief has gone through and kind of adjusted some of the numbers where he could. Telephone communication, those are a couple numbers that, looking over what we're doing now, we had to make sure we included the hotspots and the contractual emergency reporting system. That got bumped up this year. So the number's the same in the default and in the proposed. Data processing is the same. We've got the professional services is the same. Electric, heating, pellets are all the same. Water, we have increased that to $800 after looking at the current bills and how they were coming through. Under sewer, we have increased that slightly for 2018 proposed. In building maintenance, that is left the same. Under building repairs, we have a slight increase in there.
Good job.
Did you get him?
Yes, George, I got
him.
him. Do you want to see the carcass, George?
It was like that.
In dues, we've left that the same. We have an increase in janitorial supplies. The cost of using the dumpster, of course, has increased, but we also have an increase in paper products. And those are something that you do have to have.
To reflect on an earlier conversation.
General supplies, firefighting. There is a significant jump in this, going through all the different needs of the department, seeing what has needs to be replaced and improved upon. The chief can talk more about this. So he's gone through and looked at all his numbers, and there is some increases in this if you go through each line. General supplies, mechanical.
Well, but going back to that, line by line, those are three of them down there, significant increases. Why is there such an increase between last year, the default, and the proposed? Especially for structural boots, helmets, and part-time recruits, turnout coats and pants, those last three. Those are some significant increases.
First of all, the cost of that equipment has gone up significantly. The cost for just the coat and the pant, nothing else, right, is now at $2,650.
Did that kind of jump in 1 year from our vendors?
The problem, yes, you do get that kind of jump. The problem is that standards change. And basically, the way the equipment is structured or built is guided by the actual standard that's in place at the time. Every 5 years, the standards change. We've just had an increase because the type of fabrics that they're using, materials, the way they have to be blended, the way they have to be sewn, the new extrication restraint, what ERTs they call them, in which if a firefighter's down, there's now a device in the back that you pull. It's a drag device to help you drag the firefighters out.
Okay,
A lot of it's changed. The other part of it is also that the costs reflect buying equipment for the part-time people who will be providing station coverage on Sundays. We have to also outfit them. So we need to purchase equipment for them. And replacement of current gear or equipment, the life expectancy and the expiration date on that pant and coat is 10 years. We have equipment that's approaching the 10-year mark that's going to have to be replaced.
Okay, so when they change the standards, you not only have to follow standards from that point, but do you have to replace everything in the firehouse for everybody?
It depends on what that standard is.
Okay.
Some yes, some no. We can transition into that standard, but from that day forward, you have to buy. And
Okay.
the only thing that you can buy is equipment that meets that standard.
All right, that makes sense. Okay.
And I just want to mention, in 2010, the budget for that line was $22,710. In 2012, the budget for that line was $20,576. So it does go up and down as those standards change.
Okay.
That kind of reflects, that might be a good area to look to kind of focus a future discussion about creating a reserve fund for equipment, not just right here, but in other areas where there's a fluctuation to create stable annual contribution.
So general supplies, mechanical has stayed the same. In office supplies, there is a slight increase. The plan is to upgrade the copier, and also to the increase in cost in paper supplies for office needs. The equipment maintenance is down, and that has dropped because of a grant that they're getting, and they will not need for 2018 some of the items tested because they're going to be new with the grant items that are being purchased. So that has dropped about 5,000 from last year. That drop is included into the default too. Equipment repairs the same, gas, propane, oil is the same. Under vehicle maintenance, there is some increases here. One is buying a complete set of 8 tires for one of the vehicles. And there's some increase in cost in the truck batteries and fluids. Under vehicle repairs, there is a significant increase in here because of the past history of what has been spent in vehicle repairs. And I have some past history information here.
So it's not anything specific coming forward, it's just that in the past we overspent this line.
Yes,
Consistently.
the vehicles are getting older and older, and just like your own personal vehicle, the more you run it, the older it gets, the more repairs that need to be done. Under books periodicals is the same, equipment purchase is a reduction. And that part is because of a grant that we're getting some new SCBA's, and we won't need the cylinders for 2018. In 2019, that expense will come back. Events and activities and recruitment's the same, emergency management's the same, and unanticipated reimbursed expenses is the same. The total proposed budget for the fire department for 2018 is $1,078,053. The difference between 2018 and 2017 approved is $59,565. It's a 5.85% increase.
So, part of that is that the new coverage for Sunday, that's 23,000 right there. Plus, do you have a ballpark figure for the total amount? Because we have to outfit them, we have, there's other things attached to it.
Yeah, that's all in there.
That's all in there.
It's all in there, but
That's what, oh, I know, you're saying that's where the $59,000.
Right, how much of that is?
how much of that is from that?
Part-time.
Well, if you look backwards through, you're gonna see about 4,000 as vehicle maintenance of that 59,000. 9,000 is vehicle repairs. So there's 13,000 of that 59,000. And about 9,000 in general supplies firefighting. There's 23 of that 59,000.
That's about half.
Yes.
For the new
Yeah.
person and half. Just trying to get it all up here.
So you've heard the fire department budget. If you've got any questions, they're here.
How many calls do you go on a year, on average? Are we up, are we down?
We're up. We've been going up on a regular basis. We're quickly approaching 800 this year.
I think we're actually gonna be
Are we
closer
out-
to
are
1,000.
we close to 1,000?
What percentage of the calls would you say that you're offering medical assistance to?
75, 80%. It's been very common, what we've been experiencing, it's been very common that we're getting simultaneous calls. Our calls are more extended. With the recent opioid crisis, we've been longer on call, on scene, more complicated calls, more calls that require advanced life-saving skills. It's been quite challenging.
The select board, in case you here, a week ago from Monday,
900?
created
862.
We're at
a
862.
emergency medical commission to look at our 911 service, and they're going to weigh out options. Calix has issued the town notice discontinuing their contract right in the middle of the contract. They've offered to continue service, but 118% increase in the cost. So
That's Calix.
That's Calix. So what
For the
the
first
select board
year.
is doing is there's an RFP that's been put out for EMS service. I know that we have several proposals that have been submitted. The commission's going to look at the potential of going with a new EMS service, with a continued negotiation with Calix, or with creating a fire-based EMS service, or some combination thereof. So, you know, you look to see some activity there, but we're kind of forced to do something right now, so.
We went through this same thing about 8 years ago with Ross.
That's what I heard. I went back and looked at the cost
Yeah,
increase
they was
at the time.
almost double or something. Remember that?
Like a 70% increase.
No,
or
it was a
something.
big, yeah.
Yeah, so this is equivalent to that. And, you know, the frustrating thing is, I think everybody's really satisfied with Calix. They provide a really good service to the community. But in 2015, we negotiated a new contract, and one of the issues was that they said they couldn't continue at the amount they were at. So we structured a contract that was an increase of about 22% in the first year, and then 2% thereafter for the next 2 years of the contract. And where we find ourselves now is we're not even done with the second year of the contract, and they're telling us they need 118% more. So we're kind of put in a really difficult position. It'd be great to be able to get out of it in a more
It's
sustainable
straightway,
way.
every town's evidently having the same problem, aren't they?
Yeah,
Rural
I think it's-
America.
Yeah.
Call
Yeah.
volumes,
Yeah.
you know,
Right. So what is behind the 118% increase?
It's cost driven. I mean, part of the thing is there's revenues that can be generated from EMS that can offset some of the costs. I don't know.
If they don't transport, they don't make money, right?
If there's no transports, they don't make money. Also, if they don't transfer, like, so if they don't do transfers hospital to hospital.
That's where they make.
Yeah, that's where the,
they make.
yeah, George knows, I think probably from previous discussion, it's the bread and butter of an EMS service. So being able to really aggressively go after contracts with hospitals. These guys know a lot more about it than I do, but we're going to be in a process here, moving pretty quickly with the board. So.
Well, if I remember right, we even looked at the time, Joe, of buying our own ambulance, didn't we?
We did. Yes, we did.
That'll be one of the proposals at the.
With this increase, what does that, Alex, what does that end up to do to the budget? What was it?
It goes from approximately, I believe, about 119,000 to 236,000 the first year. The second year, it would go to 265,000, I believe, and then the third year, it would go to 295,000. So they're proposing adding a third year to the contract.
Is there any way we can tie in together with 2 or 3 other towns, fire departments, or whatever?
So Calix already has tied in 2 or 3 towns as an organization, but I think that as part of this commission, we've notified Easton and Sugar Hill that we'll be looking at, because those are the 2 towns that are really tied together with us in Calix. And a lot of the conversation I'm hoping to get out of is what can we do together, because I do believe we're stronger together. And so we'll see what conversations come out of that commission and what systems we can develop. Certainly, I think every town around us, and at times we struggle too with staffing. So the more that we can break down these barriers and work together, the better off we'll be.
Have you looked at all into some of the community paramedicine models out there?
So
I'm just curious because I think like the home health agencies, they've got a lot of financial challenges too, and I'm wondering how that could be an income.
Yeah, we've had an initial meeting with Littleton Regional Hospital with our medical director about implementing a community paramedicine program. It doesn't necessarily benefit EMS because EMS is a transport-driven service. So if we don't transport, there's no money to be made. So when we develop systems that actually aid us in not transporting, you lose revenue. The idea is that you tap into some of the changes in healthcare that the hospital's going through, which is that the hospitals, in essence, only make money when patients aren't going there. So when they're managing their care on a more continuum level as opposed to an acute level. So we've sent a 1.5-page memo up to LRH to say, here's some areas that we feel like we would be uniquely positioned to assist with. A lot of it is the community paramedicine based, essentially 911 home health, visits for people being discharged, helping with swing patients. So in the hospital, Littleton here's a critical access hospital, they're capped at a small number of people they can have there. And what can happen is you can get this influx all at once, and some patients are right on the verge. They could probably go home, but they need some help. They need some social services, but it's Friday, you're not going to get that. Or maybe it's a really short term, they just need help for a day or two. That's where we can come in. And obviously, what we're looking for out of that is some funding. We're going to have some expenses with that, even though we have the staff generally available 24/7. But what can we do to cost share on that? So that conversation we'll be having.
Tie in with North Country Hospital out on Old Franconia Road. Can you tie in together where they've got hospice care and everything?
So that's part of the community paramedicine model.
Okay.
And at times their system surges as well. When you're a home health nurse and you have 3 patients call you at once, we can go check one of them out and give a report back. So it's part of that broader whole continuity of care that we'd like to see developed. And
it's definitely a successful model that's developing. So yeah, Is
it necessary every time you look down Main Street, there's a police car, fire truck, and an ambulance? Is it necessary for all 3 to be on damn near every call?
I wouldn't say that we're on every call together.
90%?
I do feel, I mean, I'd have to really think about the percentage. I'd say it's less than 90%. We work really well together as a team, and it's something you should be proud of as a community. Years ago, you may have heard of rifts, between fire, police, EMS. The generation that we have working in Littleton now, and I'm a latecomer to that. I've been here some like 17 months. We work really well together, and the information that the police department's able to give us about, hey, this is what's going on with this person's life, and maybe, the dealings they've had with them, maybe you can help them with this or that. I think we're able to provide a much better service to the community as a result.
I don't think any insult was intended or any
No.
doubt that you're not working together.
No, I didn't take
know,
it that
wait a
way.
minute. I just think that a lot of people don't understand why, and I think that was just the basic question is, why do we see all three services responding to? And you could probably tell us, well, no, only maybe 50%. So I just think it's a question that's out on the street because it affects how they perceive this budget.
Sure. So one of the examples I just gave is we're dealing with more and more social issues, mental health issues, and so sometimes we're able to solve the problem for the police, and sometimes the police solve the problem for us because of these types of issues. So the more that we're together, the stronger we are, and we're making sure that people get to the right resources, or we get them out. We avoid them getting into crisis. Same thing with the drug trade. We're going into homes now for overdoses, and some of these places are pretty sketchy and scary. And having security there to ensure that. Also, when we revive these people, the nature of the way that the opioids work on the brain, a lot of times they can. I shouldn't say a lot of time. They can become violent. They've known to become violent, and we're able to really work together as a team to minimize that. As far as EMS and fire going together, because that's another thing you hear a lot. It's another situation where we're much stronger as a team. It's simple lift assist now instead of two people struggling to try to lift somebody off the ground. We have 4 people there so that we're all lifting and we don't get somebody out with a back injury. In addition to that, I'll use the lift assist example again. So we're at a lift assist and we're together, and a second call comes in, which has been happening more and more. Right away, because we're together, I know that this patient is or isn't going to be transported, because I'd say that we probably transport 20 to 25% of our lift assists. We get there and there's something else going on and they need to be evaluated. So we know right away what's the next best resource to send. Can the ambulance go to the second call, because this is going to be a true lift assist and the fire department will finish kind of picking them up, tucking them in the bed, doing whatever? Or does the fire department need to go to the next call, because this is definitely a transport and we can first respond? When we're separated, we have to try to figure all that out over our communication systems, radios and phones, and a lot of times that doesn't work well. So we have a lot of essentially nonverbal communication working together, where I can just look at the paramedic that's on and they know that we're headed out to that call because of the situation we're in right now. And we also get in service much faster. The other day we got called to a person who had just wanted a ride to the hospital. That's the call that came in. We almost didn't go with the fire department. I decided that we should go because that's what we're doing right now, and I wanted to be consistent. And we got there and found out that it was a patient that we've had concerns with making accusations and doing inappropriate touching. So we had more people, that we didn't leave one EMS person with that patient in the back of the ambulance. We were able to provide 2 people in the back of the ambulance so there could be a witness, so that we avoid all of those types of things that come down the road when that person actually attempts to do that, or maybe later accuses somebody of doing that. So sometimes it's not always easy to tell based off of the dispatch what the ultimate resources are needed, but we find ourselves working together like that quite a bit.
That was a good explanation.
You're welcome.
So right now, looking at the budget, the proposal for the fire department is 4.77% higher than the default. We'll end up either with the default or the proposed, but the proposed is 4.77%. Are you also going to be asking for any warrant articles on top of this budget?
Yeah.
For what? you had those planned yet, or?
I have one here I can share with you. I'm going to be asking the town voters to appropriate $25,000 to be used as the town's share in a grant to purchase a new fire truck. The cost of that truck will be anywhere between $425,000 and $500,000. Similar to what we did in 2014 with the tanker truck. We were able to purchase the brand new tanker truck, which was a $314,000 truck, for just under $15,000. So we need to replace engine 3. Engine 3 is on its last legs. We need to replace that truck, and we need to replace it desperately. Instead of going to the voters to say we want $400,000 or $500,000, the more prudent mechanism is to follow suit as we did with the tanker truck and pursue grant opportunities with the hopes that we get awarded a grant to purchase a truck for only 5% of the cost. 5% of the cost is $25,000. It took us 2 years and 2 attempts to get the tanker, right? We're willing to put in the same hard work to try to get a truck, a pumper.
Seed money, basically.
If I can make a suggestion, and it's very difficult for us, these grants come up throughout the year suddenly. For instance, Homeland Security grant. The president might sign a bill, and attached to that bill would be a grant opportunity. The problem is that we are not in a position fiscally to take advantage of that grant. So, because we don't have that seed money, because that seed money wasn't appropriated back in March, right? But no one knew this grant was going to happen, right, in July. So we look at that and we lose out because we don't have the ability to react to that grant. My proposal is the same as what the town manager was saying, is we need to start putting some money aside in accounts, right, for a lot of different reasons. The ladder truck was purchased, right, 10 years ago. Right? Another 10 years, that truck is 20 years old. We bought that truck for just over $600,000, right, 10 years ago. To replace that truck right now is approximately $1.3 million. Right? So we have zero in savings to do that. We have zero in savings to replace engine 3. I have zero in savings I call it savings, but you can call it whatever fund you want, right, to take advantage of grant opportunities throughout the year. There was a grant opportunity that came up last year, which was for an apparatus, but I didn't have the seed money, right, to enable me to apply for the grant, which we lost out on. So, you need to think about this. I know that a lot of people are apprehensive about saving funds and capital expenditure funds, but in essence, we're losing out. We are definitely losing out on some great opportunities here to get equipment or try to get equipment at a lower cost to the taxpayer. And I can understand the apprehension, but it certainly is frustrating when we can't even, attempt to do that because we don't have the funds to do so.
I think that's something that probably the selectmen, for a general seed money fund.
Seed money fund.
A reserve account.
Sure.
Yeah, for all potential departments or departments to be able to use that if needed.
As long as we're sure you're gonna be prudent and everything and buying the equipment that we really need, not just because it's there and you've got the money to try to get it to be kind of a fun piece of equipment to have. I mean,
Isn't that already there in the money that we didn't give back to the taxpayers to reduce the taxes? So there's money there already.
So that money is the unreserved fund balance.
Right.
We can't spend that money outside of the budget cycle. So without a special town meeting, and the only way we could have a special town meeting would be if there was some kind of emergency. It would have to be approved by the state.
So what he's asking for is open credit card.
Not
No,
necessarily.
not necessarily.
Well, I agree with
George,
you, but
George raises a good point, and this is something that we've talked about with the board, is with each fund that you create, let's say you create an equipment fund, and then you also create a paving and roadway fund, and you create a capital reserve fund. So what you would have go with that would be a 5 or a 10-year plan for each one. And on those, everything that's kind of known and planned, all those large expenses would be there, going to be annually updated, reviewed by the board, and adopted, and it would be something that you could stick to, and you could look at it as a tax stabilization program, so that when a big ladder truck comes up, you're ready for it. But like the chief has been successful with, when you get a grant, now you can take that off of the 10-year plan and also start to level out your contribution to each fund. So.
And that, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that, the unused fund,
Undesignated fund balance.
Yeah, unreserved, yeah, or undesignated, yeah.
fund balance. You said that has to go to special town meeting, can only be used for emergencies. Can it also be used for unforeseen expenses? And wouldn't a grant coming available be looked at as an unforeseen?
I don't know that we could use that.
It has to go through a public hearing process and then a special town meeting, depending on the amount of it. But there has to be specific reasons for it. You have to go through DRA first, have your public hearing, take minutes, take notes, present that to DRA. They might approve it, they might not approve it. Normally, it's only for emergencies.
Yeah, I've been told you don't get approved for.
You can't-
So an opportunity for a grant, they wouldn't consider that an emergency, even though it was unforeseen.
Right, and one thing that you can think about with the unreserved fund balance is after it's at a healthy level, which if you look at a lot of our surrounding communities are at or above the DRA level for reserve fund, you can have a warrant article say the next year that says, well, we'll take this amount of portion and use it to start, be the seed money for an equipment fund, for example. And you would basically fund these funds by having an annual allocation based on the average amount that you have to get in to meet your needs for the 10-year
It's
plan.
sort of like the school system doing that with the reserve accounts. If the unreserved fund balance is X amount, please give us permission to put $15,000 into the fuel account or something, for something else. By doing that, the public has an opportunity to vote on it and know that that's what it's going to be used for. So we can't just take it out of the unreserved balance, without the approval of the community. So it works both ways, so.
And the
Yeah.
funds, when you create the funds, you put on control. So you create a board of trustees. So in some cases, the trustees would be the board of selectmen. And before you can expend, there will be a public hearing process. And it's kind of a different way of thinking. Right now, we're kind of debt driven. So what we do is whenever we need something, we've been really good with low interest rates. Karen's been amazing with that, and also refinancing. At some point, when the market shifts, interest rates go up. Now money's not so cheap to borrow. But I think it also it puts us in a position where we're less in a future planning mode to stabilize tax rates, and we're really just looking at debt cycle and what we can afford on our debt cycle. We're just right now in the, I'd say, early to middle stages of updating our CIP, and that's kind of a step in the direction for a good planning tool to begin to move towards functioning with savings, maybe a combination savings and debt versus just debt.
The school actually last year put on their warrant articles asking up to $80,000 to be put in various reserve accounts, and it passed by the community. The community endorsed it. So that's just the fact. The school's putting $80,000 a year, approximately $80,000 a year away each year into those reserve accounts.
Is that seed money? Is that potential seed money?
It's not, it's really not, I don't know how they would use it, but it's in the wording on your warrant article what that reserve account is for. What they use it for is if there is special education, out of district placement, they can use that money for that.
I can see where it's a real necessity, but boy, it's gonna take a selling job. It's gonna really take a selling job.
Yeah.
And I see where it's necessary, but.
The chiefs would like to, George, chief.
We also have to have controls on bonds.
Oh, absolutely.
On bonds and loans, we have to have controls, because we're already $7.5 million we
Okay.
want bonds.
Okay, guys, let's listen to the chief for a second here, okay?
Just to reiterate, these opportunities, sometimes they're very short-lived. They come up to be announced in July, and you have 30 days to apply. And I don't know, most of you probably had grant applications or been through the grant application process, but you got to make that decision as to, all right, is this something, absolutely something we need, something we want to go for, and when that answer is yes, then you're out, it's a race. And the mechanisms, somewhat are boggle us down in a way. The community can't react as quickly if we have to go through a conventional, let's say, process. I use that term, lightly.
Respectfully.
Right, respectfully, but basically we have to react because the window of opportunity closes in 30 days. I know the Fire Act grant, from the time they announce it to the time that you're done, is just about 30 to 35 days. And that application takes a long time to get through, and they change it on you every single year. So when you filled it out last year, you think that you know it, and you get in there this year, and all of a sudden they want another whole segment of information, and you're often doing research and grabbing statistics and data and everything else to try to meet those needs.
Well, they're covering their money by doing that. They're making sure it's going to the right place.
Okay, Chief, engine 3 is purchased what year?
It's 1995.
And what's our other
It's
number?
1996.
Is engine 5?
Engine 6.
6.
But we have to remember that out of the two, engine 6 was the candidate for refurbishment. We did refurb that truck, and that's what extended its life expectancy. And we refurbed it for what was less than under 25,000. Engine 3 is not a candidate for refurbishment. It's too far. Engine 3 was the workhorse of the department. It was a frontline piece for a very long time. It did a majority of the work, so it took a majority of the beating. Yeah.
It was only the real fire truck that we had for many years.
Right. Yes.
Can I ask
So, sorry.
When you say seed money for the grants, are you talking match money, or is it money that you have to put forward in order to apply?
Our match money, what the match requirement is.
So that's important just for everyone to understand, that it's money that basically when you're applying for the grant, you only have to put that money as a match if you are awarded the grant. If you're not awarded the grant, you don't get that money.
And you don't spend it.
You don't spend it. So it's really just
And the other,
clarify that. That's what it
not to
is.
interrupt, but the other part of this, for instance, the Fire Act grant, that's where we're going to attempt to acquire funds to replace engine 3. Part of that is if one of the questions, even before you can get into the grant application, is has the town approved and appropriated, right, your 5% match for what you're going to be asking for. If you answer no, you're done. Thank you very much for your time. I'll try again next year.
Okay. So Unit 3 is up for replacement. Unit 6, what is the replacement year for that we're thinking based on it having been refurbished?
Well,
rehabilitated?
If we're fortunate, we can replace engine 3. The new truck, of course, will become the frontline piece.
Yeah.
So we probably could wait several years before we attempt to replace engine 6. The struggle that we're having right now, those engines are so close apart, together in years, you don't have, like this one was bought a year after the other one.
Yeah.
So and the only reason they're deteriorating, not at the same time, is one does all the work and one doesn't. So I'm hoping that we can extend the life of Engine 6 for a while so we can get a little bit of space. I can't tell you for sure how long that's gonna be. If it looks good, I mean, for instance, the grant opportunity for the tanker, the first year, the parameters for the grant met the requirements for tanker replacement. And we just missed it. And in the second year, they tweaked the requirements in our favor. So basically, when we reapplied, right, the formulas that they used, we were at a better advantage, and we scored that 0.10 percentage point higher. That put us into the category of getting an award.
Okay, where did this seed money come from?
It was appropriated through town meeting.
Yeah.
Well, I asked for it through town meeting,
Okay.
and it was appropriated
But it
through.
would have to be timing wise as far as the town meeting was concerned. You
Right.
couldn't do it in the middle of June or August or
No,
something like that.
no.
So when you ask for this 25,000, you're actually asking for maybe next year's grant.
I'm asking
So then
for.
you've got it in your pocket.
That the grant opportunity will most likely
Will come up.
come up in probably August of 2018. So I'm anticipating preparing, for the grant application, not knowing exactly what you're going to be asking for, but there are some things that are pretty normal that they'll be asking for. Prepare for that, and then if we're fortunate to get the appropriation, apply for the grant.
Jimmy, you've been thinking.
Oh, no, it's been covered.
It's been covered.
Yeah,
That does
it's good.
happen.
It's good.
Ask an answer. Joe, how much is engine tree? 450,000?
How much is what?
Engine tree.
How much did it cost when we
Yeah.
bought it?
No, to buy a new one.
To buy anywhere between $400,000 and $500,000,
Based on specification.
right? Based on standards.
So you're gonna ask next year for that, right?
No, the match, the $25,000 that he's asking
Oh, you
for would
wanna make-
allow for a grant, so they'd only have to pay that 25,000 for
5%.
500, yeah.
Yes, yes.
If they refuse that grant, that's when the town is gonna come up with that $1 million, right?
No, you don't. No, you don't have to.
You're gonna keep it out.
If they refuse the grant the first time, we'll most likely we'll try again, because we did the same thing with the tanker. Right, and
We did work on it this year, some work, I think,
Yeah, we
that's
did.
gonna help nurse it.
Well, yeah, we did quite a bit of work to try to nurse it along. It's, it's tender.
Okay.
Yeah, unless you have any other questions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Informative. Good.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
We're gonna meet one more time before Christmas. You can come if you'd like
We
to.
start shopping yet?
The 19th.
So we meet on the 19th, is that our next meeting?
And Karen's gonna give out some information in anticipation of that meeting.
Yes.
Homework.
Hey, Karen, I guess got one question on it. If you look at the bottom line item for the fire department, it's 5.85%.
Yeah.
But if you look on the summary in the back, it's 6.06%.
Okay, the difference is there was warrant articles last year that adjusted some of the budget lines.
Okay.
So if you look at that last page of the fire department budget, you're gonna see adjusted by warrant article for the CBA on the bottom.
Oh,
See that on the bottom?
Okay, that's
So
the
there was
difference.
$2,000 of the
Okay.
CBA
All
that
right.
adjusted the budget. So this 565 is against that adjusted budget number. If you look at the front, the 6% that you're looking at
Yeah,
is against what the budget that was presented last year, not including warrant articles. That's what that number
okay.
is different by. So, now I'm gonna hand you out the Public
Thank you.
Works
You're welcome, thank you.
budget, plus the sewer budget, for you to take home with you, look over. We're gonna be presenting it on the 19th. I also have included a total summary page. The one thing I haven't got updated yet is another look at the revenues, which I will do before our next meeting. But the summary page is going to show you the overall difference. So as these get handed out,
What departments are those again? Sewer
this is
and-
highway, public works, and sewer.
We presented these last
We
week.
presented the default
The default,
a couple
okay.
weeks ago.
Yeah.
The,
Yeah. So,
Can I get a copy of the police budget?
Yep.
Next,
Yep.
I wasn't here last week. I think I have.
yeah, we noted that.
I know. Okay, Karen, I can get her.
you're all
I have
set?
last week's stamp.
Okay,
Police.
great, that's great, then I'll cross it off my list.
I'm on ball.
So has everybody got copies of what I just gave out?
Diane, this is the police, this is last meeting's police budget. You have it.
I have one, yeah. So if you look at the first page, which is the budget summary page, gives you all of the summaries of all of the operating expenditures. And remember that the differences are what we had submitted last year when we talked about the budget before any warrant articles were added. You look at the second page, 2 of 2, for the budget summary. You're going to see the library, parks, etc. So you see a combination of all of those numbers. Then on the left-hand side after line 34, you're going to see the items that adjusted the budget number last year, which were warrant articles that are now included in the proposed budget. So the difference between the proposed budget, including the highway department, public works, sewer, that has not been discussed yet, is $298,579, and that is the difference between the proposed 2018 budget and the adjusted 2017 budget. It's a 3.37% increase. If you look at the numbers above on line 34, the difference between the proposed and last year's numbers, not including warrant articles, is $422,696. It's a 4.77%. The default, again, the difference between the default and the adjusted last year's budget is $24,268. It's a 0.27% increase. If you look at the default against last year's budget before warrant articles, it's 1.7. It's 148,385. So you can see what the summaries are there. Now revenues, I haven't updated. Again, I want to look at them one more time before I finish because we're getting closer to the end of the year. And then I can compare how I budgeted everything and whether something needs to increase or decrease. But my overall look, our overall look, is the default budget estimate would cost us 7.69 per thousand. And that's without warrant articles. Last year, with the few warrant articles that relate to adding into the budget with those adjustments cost 7.79%. And that's after minusing out the revenues that affect these numbers. That's using 2017 valuations. So next week, we're going to discuss the highway, the public works,
Next, the 19th.
the 19th.
Yeah.
19th.
Next meeting.
Next meeting. And the sewer, and then we were going to go on to start some warrant articles, or try to get in as many as we could, that are just drafts, they're not.
Now, how about outside agencies?
I have not heard of any. yet.
We'll check with Seal.
Seal
Yeah.
would be the one that would know, but we can check with her.
But there's gonna be, I mean, it's,
Yeah, we-
eventually there'll be a dozen.
We wanna see them all,
Well,
right, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean, but,
We can do an estimate based on historical.
yeah, but as far as us taking a vote on them.
That's right.
Well, let me just ask a question. I don't know what the select board, last year, I think we, as a budget committee, heard the request, and we voted on those that we heard, one way or the other, we approved or didn't approve. And then I think the select board took the position of not voting on them, right?
Mhm.
Which led to the default negative vote.
Yeah,
So,
so what is
The-
gonna happen this year?
Yeah, so, as you know, I wasn't selecting last year. Recognizing that the attempt to change the state statute that requires either a yes or no vote on that, to have, you know, if the selectmen do not vote on it, it has to go in as a not recommended. I can't speak for the board, we haven't discussed it as a board yet, but I intend to bring it up again. I think we should discuss whether the board should continue to not have a position on those, or if we should address those. One of the things we're trying to do, one of the things that we have discussed was having those requesting warrant articles come in and provide us with the information we need to make an informed opinion on whether we should say yes or no, which apparently has not happened at selectmen's meetings in the past.
It's very difficult. I looked at the county and they get requests basically like we do for agencies. And they go through quite a rigid review of those agencies that we as a committee don't have that opportunity to do. They want to make sure that, you know, the finances are all right and it's structured fine, and, you know, there's a lot of things that we don't have the information to. I'm not opposed to having them come in, and I'm not opposed to voting on it. I just kind of think we might want to be consistent. But that would be up to the committee, whether or not the select board decide to view it and to take a vote on it. Do we want to continue to go ahead and take a vote on it?
You think that's our decision to make?
Yes, it is our decision to make. I
Oh,
mean,
oh,
it's
whether-
separate.
Right,
Yeah.
but it's our decision if we want to hear them.
If we want to hear it,
Yeah, if we want it.
if we want to hear it, that's our decision. But as Franco said, that if we do not hear it and we do not vote on it, it comes out as
No.
a no.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a huge difference.
Is that?
I do.
I'm curious, do you know if that decision, as it applies to the selectmen, the state statute that applies to the selectmen, also applies to the budget committee?
I believe so.
That's what's happened.
Yeah, historically, that's what's happened, there's been a no.
But I agree with Heather, I think it makes a big difference on certain ones, yes.
I think,
No, I don't. I had one thing I wanted to comment on, that before money is sent out to an agency that has been on the petition warrant articles, we will hold it up if they've lost their IRS status.
Right.
If they
And
lost
I'm
their-
not going to tell you
Yeah.
what place has,
They have to
but
be in
we
good standing.
Right.
have held up that disbursement of those funds if they've lost their IRS standing and not in good standing.
See, I think that's where the county, when they do their review of different things, they have that opportunity to take that information in that we don't have. But thankfully Karen is looking into some of that.
You mean you're the 501c3?
Well, the whole issue of whether the board of selection will vote on it or not, I mean, presumably, we have our opinions on whether we want to vote for or against any of those requests. It can be argued, I'm not arguing it, but it can be argued that, look, if you've got an opinion on whether they should get it, why can't you take the vote on it?
Yeah,
You know, so, it's just a discussion we have to have. have. And again, I'm not gonna speak for the board, obviously.
Well, I was just asking that, tossing it out there, because we have to have them come in, and if we decide to take a vote on it, we need to have them notified, so they have an opportunity to come in, so that was the reason why I was bringing it up.
And one of the difficult thing is they have a legal right to submit up to a certain date, and by that point, it's getting, if we wait for that, then it's getting too late. But if we proactively reach out and say, yes, we're scheduling this date, it's available for people who've historically applied, you know, we can do that.
So the flip side of the legislation would be at least move the date up. So that at least, you know.
So should Steve or I call Steele, or will Steele, so we can make sure that the agencies are notified?
You mind doing that?
Yeah.
No, I'll do that.
So in the warrant article, can it say that it was voted on and either recommended or not recommended, but that it was also presented to the budget committee?
I think
Like, I'm just wondering if there's a way for, if the organization just submits their request, doesn't make an effort, doesn't present their financials,
That should.
is there a way to indicate that the
I would say minutes and then also deliberative session. But beyond that, it wouldn't show up
Can't go on the ballot?
article.
Can't go on the ballot? Why can't it go on if the ballot says, if we do approve it or disapprove it, the budget committee approved it, 5-5 or 5-6 or whatever, yes, but it wasn't approved by the selectmen, or if it wasn't approved by us, it was because we didn't hear it. In other words, if there was something we didn't hear,
Town
they said
report.
was not heard, this warrant article was not heard by the budget.
I think it's too convoluted, George.
Well, I don't think so.
Well, it wouldn't be to you or me, but I think in the legislative world, it's too convoluted.
You know
Or
what?
just have nothing there, just have nothing about the budget.
You could
One that
potentially-
isn't voted on, how does it come out? If we
You
don't,
can say no.
it's a
It's a
no,
no.
Yeah.
okay.
No, that's why
But
I'm
if you
saying-
wanted to
that's
put
what I'm-
a note in the town report, you could do that. Something that it's kind of just says, here's what the budget committee did, here's the position that we took, here's the ones we reviewed, didn't review.
I tell you what we might be able to do, we might be able to get common sense to put it on the sample
There
ballot.
you go.
I know during the deliberative
Is that
session,
possible?
we've had selectmen stand up and say, even though these say no, we have reviewed them, it doesn't mean that we don't support. It's just our choice was not to vote on them.
Yeah.
You know, and by not voting on them, it automatically becomes a no.
But there again, you explain that to 150 people.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of voters who, if they haven't done their own due diligence to understand a warrant article, they look for that
Yeah.
yes
Oh,
or no
absolutely.
and let
So
somebody else do
anyways.
that.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think a lot of people will look at that. However, did any of them fail last year?
Yes,
They
Yes.
did?
yes,
But also there were a number of them that passed last year that failed the year before
yeah.
Yeah.
But
because
we
they
already-
had our vote last
Yeah,
year.
last year was the first time.
Like the Boys and Girls
Okay,
Club, they
I'm off
didn't
a
get it
year,
2 years
'cause the year
ago.
before, the selectmen haven't voted for a while on those, right?
Right.
Did the budget committee vote on
It
those?
hadn't
Last
been
year
that
we
long
voted,
since the
well,
selectmen
yeah,
voted on
last
it.
year was the first year that we took a
Not since
position
I've been
on
here, that's
those.
why I've been.
On those articles,
Mhm.
okay.
And not, we voted against some of them, and so
Yeah.
some of them did fail.
Yeah, but the one, I
But
guess
the
that's my
ones-
point, is they followed that.
Yeah.
They did,
Okay.
yeah.
All right,
Diane, the other maybe is a brief discussion of the LIDC and their, whatever's gonna come forward as a
right, as a warrant article.
That's gonna be a warrant. I feel that the budget committee needs to take a position on that.
I actually talked to a few of them after they were leaving the selectmen's meeting, you know, some of the leaders of the LIDC. And I think we should hear it. I think we should hear it. I also think the reason why people watch our meetings on Channel 2, I mean, they really watch them. And so I think it's an opportunity for them to, you know, get out there and sell whatever it is about it. and for us to ask the questions. So I think it's important for us to even do our due diligence on the warrant articles that are placed on the ballot, that we do hear some kind of information.
So having this conversation, we had the meeting on the 19th, are you thinking that we need to schedule a meeting for all those other entities to come?
With a 3 minute.
I think we probably should.
Because obviously we're gonna hear them, we gotta give them time, and we gotta have the attention.
Well, you gotta put a time limit on
Well, yes.
it.
Yes.
3 minutes, 4 minutes.
Bring your gavel.
That's not what's happening on January 11th? Aren't we hearing all the warrant articles on that date or not?
That's usually the selectmen's
December
warrant
19th.
articles.
Okay, so December 19th is, they got down warrant articles, okay.
That's the
That's the
selectmen's
start.
warrant article. Yeah.
How many are we talking about? I can't remember from last year.
The
Well,
warrant
so-
articles.
From petition.
Petitioned was,
10?
A dozen
Up to
anyway.
15.
15, but we didn't hear that many
No, we didn't hear them all
last
We
year.
last
didn't hear
stuff.
15.
No.
And usually it's very quick. Most of them are very
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah, but LIDC obviously
But
will not.
LIDC, I think,
Would not be quick.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we have one on the, excuse me, Rudy, I'm sorry. We have one on the 19th, and then we have one, the 11th. So when should we pick a date on that? So the 11th would be the 4th, January 4th. So.
Which is
or
a
we would
Thursday
do-
meeting?
Or we would do, let's see, what is it? What's the other one?
January 18th, or is that?
What's the last Tuesday in December? Is that,
Yeah.
is that Christmas?
26th, I think.
No.
That's the
26th, day after
26th, that's the
Day
day after
after
Christmas.
Christmas.
We don't wanna do that, so I guess it would, I don't wanna do that.
Okay.
So, I guess it would be,
Yeah, unless we moved it to a Thursday or something. Diana.
yeah, we could, I will be here after a certain date, so, I mean, it's really up to you guys. But yes, we could move it to a Thursday.
Yeah.
We
Well,
could.
why don't you talk
The
to?
19th, if we do not hear from the school, the 19th, so it would be the 21st. That might be too short of notice, maybe not.
No?
The 21st.
Well,
and
yeah.
that
Well,
would
if you
be-
don't mind, I'm
Okay.
throwing this all in your lap, if you don't mind talking to see who you've got, talk to LIDC, and let's just schedule it.
Right.
But yes, I think we'd be better off that Thursday, the 21st, right?
Right. Is that okay with everybody else?
We're locked in, you know.
Yeah.
Lock and
Oh,
load.
yeah.
We might as well just keep
All
going.
right.
and then-
Listen,
I'm sorry,
Until
did
the
you
21st.
need something?
just,
Right.
Steve,
Yes,
at the end,
21st
Yes.
is a Wednesday.
since like you guys are the chief over
December.
there, making sure,
it's
making sure
Thursday.
that
Yeah.
it's posted,
We will.
not just for LIDC, but also for the other party.
All right,
oh yes.
we will.
You know, and I don't mean it just in the newspaper or in, you know, St. James, make sure it's posted all over the place. No, I'm serious. You're already gonna go to court, I tell you right now.
I am.
That's right. You know,
Yeah,
not be
I-
so smart because, you know, the guy over here doesn't is really to be dangerous to you.
I will work with Carrie to see.
Making sure, you know, that everything is done properly and by the law. All right? Okay, that's great.
We never normally try to hide the ball.
No. How many times the meeting it was done with the nobody knows about? The last time you heard about, it, right? It was not posted, so people there don't know about the meeting that we had last time about, you know.
All right,
Are we gonna do November
Okay.
21st minutes or not?
Oh, yeah.
Don't be so smart.
November 21st.
Has everybody received the minutes of the last meeting?
Yes.
Have they been reviewed? Are there any questions?
I haven't yet.
Yeah, that's not
Can
minutes.
we hold it
That's
off until
not
the, she hasn't reviewed it. I haven't
Okay,
reviewed it.
let's do, we'll do that, make that first.
That's not the way we want to
And
do it.
as I'm going to be sending you the minutes of the last two school meetings, I actually asked if I could have a copy of their minutes, because that was easier for me not to have to make minutes. So I will send those to you, and when we have the next school meeting, we'll vote on those minutes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Adjourn. Andrews.
Thank you.